and you bredo wafa. Timpower yes na winya. Yamin Shira, Mamani Paya the Foa, and Yanum. Yafanya Misroya Jumana Yami Besrayan, O'Brien Boya, and Moyamurai, Abeya, Efi, Yanara, Mama Beya, Efi, Yanara, Yanala Pofo, Asitra Beya, Efi, Yanara, Mama Beya, Efi, Yanara, Adije, Yamoyamurai.
Good evening, it's another Friday, and surely your dial is on Asaase Radio. The program is Townhall Talk. Tonight, our conversation on the coronavirus situation continues. It's probably the most important topic, very difficult to ignore. And given the fact that this week Ghana was touted to have achieved or chalked a landmark, a milestone of having been the first to have received the vaccines for the coronavirus disease under the global arrangement for the supply of these viruses to, as was captured in the British newspaper, the world's poorest nations. Tonight we're here to consider that, of course, within the context of the entire virus situation, which is still raging, and in respect of which some of us become fatigued. I'm sure a lot of people get fatigued and sometimes forget that we're not out of the quagmire yet. I have tonight for my guest, and no less a personality, the most qualified to speak on the subject, I think, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaji, the Director General of the Ghana Health Service. Dr. Boaji, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I think I shortened your name is Kumar-Boaji.
That's fine.
You're welcome. What is the state of Ghana's fight against the virus? There was a time at the beginning when Ghana was said to be doing excellently, and then our numbers kept spiking, and recently I'm not sure if we are thawing, but what is the state of our fight against the virus?
Thank you very much. I think in most of these epidemics, with your best of effort, you still have a first wave and you may get a second wave. But the most important, how do you fight it? Currently, as we speak now, the active cases, which is the number of people who actually are carrying the virus, from what we've done, it's about 5,480. A decline from 8,000 plus, let's say about the last 10 days or so ago. The numbers of deaths continue to rise, even though the number of deaths per day has significantly come down. It's come to about 599. This, as at the 24th of February, which is the reporting date for this exam. We also have about 626 new cases. It swings. In the last 2 days, we've been getting about 480, 490, but there's been a little hype, especially in Accra again. But still, generally, the number of active cases has dropped as of yesterday from about 5,900 to about 5,480.
So the numbers are going down?
Yes, but it's still at the high peak. But like I'm saying, the response, not just only the health sector, but the people also helps in it, especially responding to protocols, allow the transmission to be somehow curtailed. As we are seeing now, is that the number of recoveries are outnumbering the new cases, and so we are seeing a gradual decline in the number of cases. But it's still very high compared to the numbers we had in 2000, say December.
In respect of the viruses, we're told we have some variants. I mean, the South African variants and the British variants and the other variants.
Yeah.
Do we have all the variants in Ghana, or we have a particular variant apart from the COVID-19 that initially popped up?
We have the main one, a dominant variant, and the UK variant, and then we have about 1 in 10 of the South African variant, and so the dominant variant is that, apart from the earlier ones, and that's how these viruses behave. They do change, mutate frequently, and change. Sometimes they change become weaker. Some they change and become stronger. So it depends on what you have. So
the New York Times reported recently that there's a new variant that has been discovered, I think, in the US, which apparently is able to evade the body's immune system, the body's natural immune system. In other words, very strong immune system can still be evaded somehow. Are we aware of this? And
yes, we are aware.
What is Ghana's disposition? I mean, moving forward, now that we know that variants cross borders,
Yeah, I think since say early towards the end of December, early January, we've been detaining. It has to be imported, and we are detaining all those who become positive at the port, and then we test them until they are negative before they leave. And so that's one way of curtailing that. But of course, the way the nature of the disease, if you had a PCR negative before coming to Ghana and testing negative at the airport, the chances that you have it is reduced, but doesn't make it zero. Somebody can go ahead and later develop, because maybe incubating. The incubation period between 2 and 14 days. So everything we are doing is not more like risk elimination, but risk reduction. And so that still gives us an opportunity to really eliminate those who are positive, who don't travel at all, and those who turn positive and are detained until they are negative and released. So that's what happened. I think if we had probably instituted that much earlier, when the people were coming for Christmas, we're having 25, 35 a day, and we gave them advice and we did them home isolation, and they were not complying. That could have also reduced the spread a bit.
Border closures have been tested and known to work. New Zealand closed its borders, Australia closed its borders, and countries that appear to have gone on hard lockdown, as they have been called, have known to have had scientifically quantifiable results. Do you think that in the state in which we are, it's a good thing that our airports remain open? Our borders are generally closed, but our airports remain open, and people can go to the States and come back, even though we know that new variants are popping up in that country?
I think it is not just one intervention. Those countries who closed their borders, they had other interventions beside the closure of borders. So they all play a role. It depends on how these other things contribute to that. The difficulty with COVID is that if you don't take it to shut the whole country down, and other situations arise. And so there's always going to be, how do you balance reducing the spread to keeping the country somehow working? And I think that's why, for me... But
as the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, the balance between economy and health considerations, do you think we are getting that balance right at this stage?
Well, I think by and large it's okay. It worked until December very well, and then the new variant, and then the influx of our compatriots changed the dynamics. We are on our way back to recovery, and I think the vaccine has come at the right time. That will also help us speed up the recovery and be able to contain it. So even as Director General, we depend on the economy for other diseases to be managed, and so the balance is still very, very important, that we are able to treat malaria, we're able to get resources to do other things, pregnant women, etc. So wherever you are, health is not the only thing. Health is important, but there also have to be a balance. Health is resources, and you need resources to manage health.
Can they get closer to the microphone a bit, just so that we hear you well? Excellent. Yes. So I think the last point you're making is that the balance is important for us to, achieve the objective of a country, so to speak,
including maintaining health.
Including maintenance of health. What is the state of our interventionist infrastructure? Our hospital beds, our PPEs, our ventilators. and the various things that you as doctors and your compatriots use to combat the disease. What is the state of infrastructural preparedness?
Yeah, thank you. I think in the beginning, we started from somewhere around 28 beds to nearly 1,000 beds scattered across the country for COVID cases. In the last 3 or 4 weeks, in the last 1 month, since the beginning of January, the new variant created more illness, mainly concentrated in Accra. So for the critical and severe cases, we were somehow overwhelmed with cases. Currently, we are easing, we are okay, except that the imbalance. If you remember last year, we had some surges in Kumasi, and we didn't have enough beds in Kumasi, but we had beds across the country. So that's the balance. The most important aspect is not just the bed, it's the human resource. The intensivists to be able to manage such severe cases, anesthetists and intensivists who are actually trained specifically for that. You don't have them enough, and you don't train them in 6 months. It takes years to train them. And so that's one gap that we have currently. We train case management teams across the region, medical officers, critical care nurses, to be able to manage them and respond. But I believe that there's also a medium-term plan to ensure that this number of CADA are developed for any other eventuality that comes. So those are the challenges we have in terms of the total number of our beds, but in terms of the distribution, depending on how the disease behaves, you may have a congestion in a particular area, but we're able to move them from one place to another.
But are you getting the sense that these interventions, I mean, these both hard infrastructure, human resource, and all the other interventions, are you getting a sense from a more scientific standpoint that they are making a difference? Are we making a difference in terms of what optimally we would have wished?
Well, I think the most important interventions are more the preventive protocols. The infrastructure, the beds and treatment is
curative.
Curative is, the person has gotten it, and now you are trying to manage. The most important intervention is to prevent it. And we can see that when people comply with the protocols, when we move mask use from 10% to about 52%, we saw a rapid decline in the number of cases in Accra. From 700, globally, with about 500 cases in Accra, averaging a day, now to about 200. Yesterday it was about 139 cases. So you see that those are more, and that requires behavior change. That requires the people participating in that. And so it's a balance of just what the health sector can do, but also what the discipline with which people, if you see countries where mask wearing is where it's able to enforce discipline, like Korea, China, etc., you could see that they've been able to manage the pandemic very well, not because of treatment, but because they are able to prevent the spread from one person to another.
Has there been the appropriate budgetary allocation to your sector in light of the virus? I mean, have we seen an increase, for example, in the budgetary allocation? And in addition to the increase of budgetary allocation that there has been, have we seen a proper rationalization, and the prevention of leakages and all that, to ensure that resources are directed in a maximum way to areas where it's needed?
Yes, I would say the budget has significantly increased for the response. Of course, at Director General, we could always do with more. There's a lot more that we can do. There are plans, we have them in case management, protocols, etc. So they have been segmented. And there are very strict rules on how it's dealt with. I know that there's been presentation to Parliament on several occasions on what has been done and what is being planned to do. So the balances are there, both at the regional and the facility level. And I can tell you that the health sector has even used its own internal generated fund to invest, because a hospital has to ensure that they have cleaning facilities, they are washing, every patient comes there is washing their hands. Previous, there were no tissue, paper, soap, etc. These are all extra costs that has come in. But I believe that with all the money that has been pumped in, there's been significant increase in time. You see, when you are managing this pandemic, it's not only the health things, it's the water and sanitation activity that takes place. Fumigation, sterilization, cleaning, and all those things that takes place across the country, feeding people who under lockdown are able to know everything. These are all part of the infrastructure. These are all things that helps in managing the pandemic. Because if people will not comply because they have certain needs, these are all things that can. So I think on the whole, the balance has been quite helpful, and Ghanaians for a large part of the time has been very, very cooperative.
More specifically, you've had health workers complain about, basic accoutrements, basic appropriate accoutrements for the work. PPEs being the notable ones. And we've had a few places, including in Savile, where workers have contracted the disease. So I hear your answer in respect of budgetary allocation being directed properly for the work. But what specific measures? First of all, are you aware of this? The fact that there has been some general complaints by some health workers in respect of the shortage of PPEs, and also what are the specific directed in that area to avoid morale issues, at least in respect to the frontline health workers?
Well, I'm going to start from the PPE. I think we started. The whole world was shocked. I mean, in terms of America, everybody didn't have PPEs, but we've been able to rise up to that area. There are a few times we have challenges, but that is mainly due to some say local administrative lapses in a facility that may not be able to allocate these things appropriately. Not that there's no global shortage of PPEs. There are certain areas. You see, initially when we started, people felt that PPE was the full gown one. But for a nurse working in the ward, your PPE is your mask. Okay? And also for health worker infection.
And it's not a full one? I'm not a doctor, so I dare not challenge you on this. But we have been informed that the disease,
coveralls and boots and things. These are the people who are treating sick people.
Yes, but we have been informed that this is an unknown terrain. Even in the medical field and in the medical research, is an unknown terrain. At one point, we're told it's only nasal. At another point, we're informed it's through the eyes as well, and so protect your eyes as well. As to its suspension in mid-air and its ability to stay around for so long, so many things are being known by the day. So in terms of PPEs and in terms of people who work frontline and their prospect of contracting it and the fear this generates and the fact that they have families at home, wouldn't you be fair to defer to precautionary PPEs? I cover the whole thing as opposed to just...
Well, I think if you wear the full PPE for 20 minutes, you'll see how it feels like. It's not. Even for those who go and see patients around, you can't do more than 20-25 minutes to come out and get some fresh air. So that one is for those who are seeing people who have the virus. But you also have general health workers who may be seen coming across anybody who may just be asymptomatic, or who may be reporting symptoms that would later lead to diagnosis. They are the ones who need the basic ones like gloves, the N95 or masks that protect you from that. And so, and in terms of the transmission, I think over the last 1 year, we've learned a lot, and so we are fairly sure about how it is transmitted. And then the mask and the hand washing, etc., that's very well in protecting.
But are doctors generally satisfied? Are they generally satisfied with the PPEs supplied? Or are there complaints? And if there are complaints, are you engaging them?
We continue to engage them, yes. There are complaints. Like I keep saying that it could also be due to just local administrative challenges that is not leading to that. And so they are able to locally address them. And as much as possible, we rise to that. We have masks in the stores where some of them are not being used. And so these are some of the key challenges that we have. But broadly, we believe that in terms of this motivation, something has done. We could do more. People who are getting their 50%, there are few technical challenges, not because the money is not there, because either some information is not coming at the right time. And so, but we continue to pay until we pay everybody who was due.
There is a widespread belief out there, sometimes almost pedestrian, but it's so strong out there. And I need to ask you, I can't help but ask you. Some people believe that this disease is a rich man's disease. It's a disease of the affluent, maybe the middle class and above. And so, people, especially of a certain class, according to their own designation, they don't really think that the disease is for them. And they give examples such as you see all these crowded places, from the circles to the carnages to the crowded markets. people are going about their duties and they appear healthy. Many of them don't even comply with the protocols the way they're supposed to, but they appear rather healthy. And then you find people who apparently are trying their best, one slip, and then they have the disease, and sometimes they succumb. As a doctor and as the head of the Ghana Health Service, Ghana Health Service, you are probably the chief doctor in this regard. Maybe it's important for us to know, do we have any scientific basis to explain the extent to which this disease appears to affect different classes differently?
Okay, so let's see where the disease comes from. I mean, it was first found in Wuhan, and then which means it had to be imported into the country. The chances are that people who are going to fly from Wuhan, who are going to fly into other countries, into Ghana, maybe belong to a certain class who are likely to bring it in. And so it started with more of importation. Remember when we stopped about 1,200 people traveling in, we were able to get about 105 people who are positive out of the 1,100. And so it starts as an importation. But once it gets into the country, everybody else is at risk. It depends on who you come in contact with. It could be your maid, it could be your mechanic, everybody. Then it spreads. And then it doesn't stop from there. It can now go from everywhere. In the first place, you realize we had a lot of cases in our suburbs, in the slums. But because they don't make so much noise, you don't hear. But if you get one case in East Legon or cantonments, everybody need to know some big man who has turned positive. But nobody hears the other one. And so that's how it is.
So there's no special resilience among certain groups of people?
What happens is that enclosed spaces, it's a very, very fertile place for spread. Who are in the enclosed spaces? Apart from those who live in probably poorly and ventilated areas, in the air conditioners, and the dining, and eating and drinking, and meeting friends, and clubbing. You see, these are where you quickly pick them up from. And so that also attracts a certain class of people. And so it really is the nature. I mean, when you get Ebola, it starts from the bush meat. People get it. And so you also start from the poor area, but that to come to the hospital, and the doctor who will be unlucky to go and see the first patient get affected. The doctor may be in the middle class, but he gets affected. So it depends on the source of the disease, how it moves in, and how it spread.
Now, my last question on the PPEs and move on. There have been allegations that people who have to bury their deceased persons who caught coronavirus had to literally buy or pay for the PPEs. Again, this is an allegation you're aware of?
It's not supposed to be, at least for the PPE that the environmental people are supposed to wear to manage that. Those are provided. What we don't provide is probably transportation for the coffin and all the burial arrangements. But I don't know, unless it's an extortion, but they are provided with the necessary PPEs to be able to do that, because you give them coveralls and everything, and these are not things you buy from the store.
So, in other words, people who have lost relatives to the virus are entitled to the distribution of PPEs for the burial services?
Not to them. It's for the
burial team.
Burial team. I mean, for the burial service, the people who come for the funeral, the usual social distancing and your mask.
But then the team. The burial team.
The burial team is supported.
They're entitled for.
Yeah, they're entitled. We are giving the Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, give them.
And are you aware of?
To give them transport to go.
Are you aware of any sale, which obviously will be corruption, but are you aware of any sale?
Well, I mean, I've heard several stories about people.
You followed up on that?
Well, we do follow up. We inform the local government, but that's where the environmental people belong to see how.
So, have you come across? Has any finding resulted in? I mean, have you come across any? Has there been any finding to the effect that indeed such a sale took place?
I say, as far as I'm concerned, it mainly has been the environmental people who complain, I don't have this, I don't have that. Rarely do you have any relative or any client come to complain that they took money from me or they've done this and that. And so, as far as we are really not being able to come up with anybody who is said to have extorted or done anything. But what we know that they demand that we don't have this, we don't have a vehicle to take us. And the Ministry of Health continuously try to rise to that and address those challenges.
You spoke of Ebola, and we are aware Ebola is making a new show in Guinea.
Yeah.
First of all, have we had any recorded case of Ebola in Ghana since the Guinean example, since the Guinean experience? And if we have you put in place measures for us to ensure we contain it? We don't have to get to the level of coronavirus?
Well, as soon as it was announced, and the Ghana has put out a circular to alert all districts and sub-districts and alerted them at the western border and our landing beaches for fishermen to ensure that there are surveillance systems to ensure that anybody coming in is properly screened. So far, we have not reported any case, except that when some devious guy picked up the circular, he removed Guinea and put Ghana there.
Oh.
So it sounded as if there's a case in Ghana and it was circulating, but otherwise, we've not. I believe that they've had about 10 cases or so with 5 deaths in Guinea, and we have not had any reported case in the neighboring Cote d'Ivoire. So we are still on constant alert. You see, because of the COVID, our public health emergency teams already activated, working. So all they have to do, what we ask them to do, is now add Ebola search into your surveillance and keep us informed. And that's what will be happening. Especially also our port health. I know immigration has also alerted the borders to ensure that, despite the border is closed, people still find ways of trying to sneak through, to ensure that nobody comes in and those who are coming in are properly, if they are allowed to come in, are properly screened.
So even though the numbers have risen now, proportionally, have we had the same corresponding, numbers of deaths? Or you indicated earlier that the recoveries are improving, but have the number of deaths also reduced? Because the numbers I see being posted sounds to me like more people are beginning to die. I mean, proportionally, is it still lower than the previous one? Or
for Ebola or?
For coronavirus.
Coronavirus, yes. In January, when we started having the first surge, more people were falling sick. The numbers of deaths were higher. But as the numbers of positive came down, we've also seen the number of daily deaths also coming down. And so that's where we are. And you see, even if you are going to have the national, normally the global average of deaths is about 2% of the number of cases. We have done 0.6, and it's only in this era that we got to about 7.8, which is still, compared to the global cases, is still quite low. But that, because the numbers were high, 0.8% of 1,000 or 800 is quite a number, and that is what we are doing. But now that the numbers are coming down, we have seen a commensurate reduction in the number of the daily death that we are having, and mainly in Accra. We are also having some increases in the northern region, and we are studying to see, is it a dry weather, how does it play into it, and all that.
My guest tonight is Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaji. He's the Director General of the Ghana Health Service. And we are still having a conversation on the COVID-19 situation, the management, the status of things. We're about to look at the vaccines. And I would like to acknowledge that the program is sponsored by the Magdan Shipping Company Limited, your total logistics partner. And you are on Townhall Talk. So, Dr. Kumar-Boaji, the big question, we have received some vaccines. And I don't think Ghana has ever had a fanfare at the airport when some medicines arrived to the country like we had recently. And for good reason, because we are in totally abnormal times. And so there's good reason to celebrate that there must be some medicine here to take care of, to think of us and give us some relief from all the anxiety and whatever there is. First of all, what vaccine did we receive? There are all kinds of vaccines, from the Sputnik, the AstraZeneca, the BioNTech, Pfizer-BioNTech one, and all of this. Which category? I mean, what vaccine did we receive recently?
Yes, we received the AstraZeneca.
The AstraZeneca.
Made in Swedish, UK company, but the one that is brought in was the one that contracted the Serum Institute of India to produce. So that's what we received.
So there are some speculations around that we also are in line to receive the Sputnik V. Have we received the vaccine as well?
Yes, we have not received, but we've registered it, and efforts are being made to see whether we can get some. With the clamor for vaccine for all countries, you cannot just pitch your camp on one vaccine. You need to have a multiple approaches so that you can have as many. Because the essence of vaccination is not just vaccinating them over a long period, but if you're able to vaccinate over a shorter period, you get better results. And so we are pulling all this. And these are all vaccines that have been tested appropriately, registered by our FDA, which is highly rated FDA in the world. And so that's why so far we have done that. We are working on registering the other vaccines as and when the dossier come in.
You spoke of having been tested appropriately, but there is news, for example, to the effect that Germany is avoiding the AstraZeneca virus, at least for persons who are deemed elderly. And you indicated that the FDA has tested it.
Yeah.
In terms of assuring the public who are listening, to what extent has Ghana conducted its own clinical trials and conducted its own clinical examination of those vaccines to ascertain the fact that they are, they are safe for our, I don't know whether the proper word is genotype, or for our type, in terms of black people, in terms of where we are, all the conspiracy theories there are. And people believe them, like it or not, people believe them. How do we assure them? And you are the chief of medicine in Ghana. How do you assure them?
I think genes are genes, and actually it works. Whether it's Penta for children, TB, BCG for children, it's global and it works for everybody. It is not everything that you need to look at. I think the development of vaccine, apart from the laboratory ones, work that you do in the in vitro, there's also 3 clinical trials, the first stage, last stage, and then the third clinical trials, and the full dossier is there, and there's global transparency. And these dossiers are that's what is read assessed by WHO and registered. That's what the FDA will assess. If they see anything that makes it mean that they will need to do some further assessment, they will raise it. But so far, both of them seem to have gone through looking at the method that we approached and all the trial that has been done. The FDA feels it's safe enough, and that's what we are using, and that's what the whole world is doing.
The president, we're told, is going to be in line for the very first shot.
Yeah.
Can you confirm that? That gives me a lot of confidence, if that is true.
Yes, I believe so. Not probably other people would also take the vaccine.
We'll have some of our leaders.
Yes, take the vaccine.
Line up to take the vaccine.
See that it's really real. That it is. People are rushing for the world, and you can see that you talked about the fanfare at the airport. Israel has had about 50% of the population vaccinated, and for the people who are vaccinated, they have seen a 94% decline in prevalence. U.S. has started, you can see a decline in the U.S. UK started vaccination, you see a major decline in their numbers. And so definitely it's working. And they've vaccinated about 20 plus million, with about 200 million people in the world have been vaccinated. There's been no adverse event that anybody has, severe adverse event that anybody has reported.
So there's no reason for people to be worried?
Not at all.
Those conspiracy theories are...
No.
In other words, Ghana did not just import the vaccines, but Ghana has tested it for itself. Or for herself. Our FDA has tested
the dossier, not necessarily test them, but gone through the dossier on what was done. And these are done very transparently. It's not that you go and sit in your lab and write a report.
Yes. Can you explain that for us? You said they've gone through the
dossier.
The dossier.
Yeah, of course.
And the dossier means have we examined the structure of the vaccine to find out the composition?
And then you look at
composition and all.
First clinical trials where you give to a few people and see how it goes. You move into a second stage where you give it to a few more people, and then a third clinical trial where you give it a large number of people and see whether does it work. That's when you're talking about does it reduce, is it efficacious, does it does what it's supposed to do, is it safe, did anybody take it and get any adverse reaction, and all those things. And when you do that, all these things are done transparently.
And we've done all that in Ghana.
We don't do that in Ghana. It's the manufacturer.
You are speaking of the global level.
Yeah, the manufacturer has to go through that.
Right. But because you mentioned that our FDA has tested it.
No, I didn't say. I said have looked at the dossier.
Has looked at the dossier. Do we have plans of having our own local testing, to be sure? Are there plans? Particularly because you have all these conspiracy theories out there. True or false, people believe in all kinds of things about whatever. And these are important for the psyche of people.
Yeah,
do we have any plan of having our own domestic testing of these?
See, you don't do science through rumors and misconception. Science is science. So if the facts are clear, there's no point going to waste money and time trying to look for something that's obviously clear. What we spend our time is explaining to people how these are developed. and why it is safe, and giving examples of where people have taken it and seen no adverse effects. We currently have about 13 vaccines in the country, vaccinating children and adults, and we do that almost every day.
In any case, we don't subject drugs that are imported traditionally to another clinical testing here. We don't do that.
No, I don't.
It is not standard practice.
No, not standard
so
practice.
just to support
But
you,
you
say
can
in
test
other words, this is the standard practice that we import, and once we have, but are we supplied with the data? Do we have the data? Do we have the information?
Yeah, that's why
That's the dossier.
That's why I call the dossier. Every detail is there. Every detail is there. The people who were put on trial, who were part of the trial, how they gone through, who got what, and what was the outcomes, daily reports, and all these things are
and we know for a fact that these were not made just for Africa, but they were taken from the global bunch.
Yes. It's not made for just Africa, no. Yeah.
As we speak, do we have the structures, the infrastructure, and the systems in place for a mass vaccination, assuming we decide to do that? Are we prepared for a mass vaccination? Have we put in place mechanisms and systems to ensure an optimal mass vaccination?
We started our preparation for vaccination since October last year. Apart from the fact that we have one of the best when it comes to vaccination, we have on the average about 95% of all our children are vaccinated, and we started in October, so we had a plan. We knew what vaccine we could take. We looked at the vaccines that are available. We looked at our cold chain facility. At that time, we have 2 to 8. We were looking for vaccines that could meet that criteria. We don't have the ultra-negative cold chain, but we had made adequate preparation that should we have to go there, we need to procure some of these fridges and this ultra-cold cold chain facility to be able to store, for example, Pfizer and Moderna and others, including even the Sputnik V, which is minus 18. And so those ones are there. We also made arrangements for the expansion in our cold chain facility to be able to withstand that. We've been able to prepare all this in time to submit our document, our deployment plan, and everything to WHO Gavi for us to be the first country in the world to receive COVAX donation, which means that our preparation was on time and up. And
so that's significant. In other words, we did not just receive it out of the toss of the dice.
Yeah.
We received it because we were rationally selected out of the lot by reason among others of the fact that we are ready.
And because we are prepared.
Because we are prepared.
We are able to start vaccination 1 week, in fact less than a week after receiving the vaccine, because all the structures have been put in place in preparation for that.
And so we're ready.
We are ready. Tuesday we'll start.
Okay, the first vaccination starts on Tuesday. Is there a system of knowing, and this comes to education. I don't think I've heard a lot or an awful lot of education out there about the vaccine and about the impending vaccination process and what to expect, and dealing with the conspiracy theories, which is a significant impact on this. Have you had sufficient education on the vaccination process?
When it comes to vaccination education and education on health, you can always do more. I think a lot has been done. Maybe a lot of people depend more on the mass media as a judge, but we are also engaging chiefs, we're engaging opinion leaders in the rural areas. We are engaging pastors. Like yesterday, we had a large group of pastors that we had engagement with. We had a lot of unions, etc., have been engaged and explained to them exactly what our plan is. And so those things are ongoing, especially, but except that people tend to dwell more, especially the mass media, on all the conspiracy theories that is going on there. And so that is that, but we can do more. We're going to, and you see, because we are not going to get 20 million vaccines in a day to start, and it's going to be segmented. We have time to continue engagement with the community and people. NCC is on the Ministry of Information, is in the lead. Our risk communication and the health promotion is part of the team. And we are working our unions.
So education is underway?
Yes, underway.
But do you have plans to expand or broaden the scope? Because clearly, as I indicated, unless I'm not listening enough, it doesn't seem it's out there.
There's an aspect of the communication that is probably not out there. You go to the district, they are meeting the health committees, they are meeting chiefs, They are meeting some farmers. You see, those are the engagement that goes on in that community. And this has been something that's been going on for all vaccines for a while now. So those ones are going on, but you may not hear the mass media bit so much. That's for me, that's the wrong charge. But the most important one is the engagement level of the very people, the nurse who is going to, who the health team in a particular village, engaging their people about what they are having and why they must have it.
The Sputnik V, there has been some allegations, at least certainly by a professor of UHAS, Professor Fred Binker, who has clearly stated that the Sputnik V has not been approved by the EU. Is this something you are aware of as we plan importing that?
You have to see the dossier. If you have not seen the dossier, you cannot speak so much about that. I think it's only FDA who has the dossier. And our FDA is the level 3 grade, one of the highest in the world. And they have looked at it and they are satisfied with it. But we have many countries, Argentina, Morocco, and many other countries who are using Sputnik V.
I mean, with all respect to the FDA, and I think they may be doing a good job, but it's either being approved by the EU or it's not. And particularly in a country where conspiracy theories appear to also be reigning supreme, particularly in respect of vaccines, I think it's important to
I don't want
the
to
public.
go
So that's the
into,
question.
I don't want to go into geopolitics of all these things. Some of these decisions may be economic, may be political, and so...
In other words, the EU is not a standard.
No.
Yeah, right.
For our standard, is the FDA
Okay.
has looked at it, and they are satisfied.
And certified.
And that is safe and efficacious.
And so the FDA has looked at the Sputnik V
Yes.
and has satisfied itself.
Yeah, it was registered before AstraZeneca.
I'm now going to ask you one or two questions, and I've been informed that you have to leave earlier.
Yeah.
So I'm going to spare you, and in the next 10 minutes, we're out. So these ones are going to look like classroom questions. And the reason they look like classroom questions, part of the reason is because I'm so married to the classroom. And so let's do a little bit of classroom exercises. Yeah. Assuming one is vaccinated, how free is he from the virus and for how long?
I think you said something that I want to repeat, that there's so much we don't know about the virus. But what we know about vaccination is that, number one, it's going to reduce hospitalization, it's going to reduce severe illness, and of course, death. Okay? And if you have significant number of people protected, you get what we call the herd immunity. And so if I transmit to you and it doesn't work, you can't catch it and you can't transmit it on, it's only a matter of time that we bring the whole spread under control. You don't need to have everybody vaccinated. If you are 10 of you and you have 7 people, example we gave is that if there are 10 people are walking in the rain, they don't need 10 umbrellas. If they have 7 umbrellas, all 10 people could hide under.
So is that strategy a herd immunity strategy? To get to the level where the people would have acquired it and gained the immunity for it? I mean, what is the strategy? Is the strategy herd immunity?
Well, it's both. Once you get herd immunity, it's the ultimate. But with the current limitation that you cannot give children and pregnant women, that reduces the number of people we can vaccinate. But most importantly, studies are going on, and I'm sure by the time we get to 3-4 months, there will be enough evidence to say that it's safe to give to children, it's safe to give to pregnant women, and we can increase the number. So we are giving the first 20 million, that's the first target to vaccinate 20 million Ghanaians, which gives us about 60-something or so percent. But the ultimate is to vaccinate all the 31 million Ghanaians.
Question number 2. If I get vaccinated, can I stop wearing masks? I wear this thing and I can hardly breathe, and it's becoming stressful. But assuming that I go for the vaccine, can I immediately come out and tear my mask into shreds?
It doesn't bring the risk to zero. So let's hold on small. We want to continue.
So the vaccination doesn't mean
until that enough people are vaccinated, and then we can go to that. Because if we start now and the 4% of the people who may not be protected, you can't take. So we need to continue respecting the protocols. And I think that until a larger number of people are proportionally vaccinated, and we are able to continue to study the behavior of the virus.
So, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I have to disappoint you. You get vaccinated, you still have to continue wearing the masks.
But at least you don't get... People wear masks and they still get infected anyway,
So nothing is 100%. Nothing is 100%, but certainly one thing is for sure, the vaccination of itself doesn't immediately free you of the protocol responsibility of wearing masks and saving yourself and others. Now, if I get vaccinated, will I develop a resistance to the virus? That's question number 3.
Well, vaccination is basically to train the body's immune system to detect and attack the virus. And so it doesn't allow the virus to grow to a level where it gives you disease. And if it does, it may just be a mild disease because it's not able to replicate large and long enough. And
so it builds your capacity to fight.
Your own innate capacity to fight. That's what vaccination is all about. It's been going on for the past 350 or so years.
But related to this, if I get vaccinated, would my contagion level for others be reduced?
Yes.
Or would I still pose the same level of risk?
No, I think it's reduced because if you become immunized, it means that the virus cannot, even if you were to get it, you may not get a very high viral load to be able to spread to others. It is assumed, but because it's a very novel virus, we're still trying to be cautious about some of the things we do. And Israel has 50%, say 94% of them are in reduction, and so they have allowed those groups to be able to be more freer than those who are not vaccinated.
How long will the vaccination, in other words, how long will the level of protection afforded by vaccination, how long will it last?
That is still out there. It's still steady. So once we vaccinate and it's safe, we continue to observe to see how long it lasts. Because normally vaccine development takes a couple of years, not in terms of the phases of its safety, but because you have to wait and see, okay, how long does it provide protection? But in a disease like what we have, this pandemic that affected every country in the world, I don't think we have the luxury of waiting for 2 more years to see how long it protects people before they can use it. It's safe and efficient, so we can still learn to see how long does the protection last for.
So related to your earlier answer about the contagion, if one gets vaccinated, one should still maintain social distancing. Is that correct? Or we can deem ourselves safe enough to get closer to others and for others to get closer to us?
There are many things that we do because as protocol that improves hygiene and other things, and so we also prevent other conditions. For example, because of COVID, we had children, and because of the hand washing and sanitizer use, we had about the childhood diarrhea reduced by almost 30-something%.
Collateral benefits.
And so there are good benefits. Is it right to have very long burials, long funerals? So these are all things that we could also learn and take advantage of as part of the new norm, and also improve the way society behaves.
You passed the exam that I just administered. My last question, and then I release you out of here, given that you have to run to attend to a very, very important task. I'm informed. We're informed Ghana is among 92 countries that are billed to receive a no-fault-based compensation in terms of the impact of the vaccines on old people or older people or persons administered to. Is this correct? And what are the mechanisms of that? How are the payments made? First of all, are there going to be payments made at all? And if there will be payments made, are these payments going to be made to government or to the individuals?
So Gavi is like a club. People are members. Ghana is a member of Gavi, and we pay our dues. And so it's through that alliance that they have created that COVAX facility where people have donated into that. We are going to give you 20% of your needs for these countries, 20% of your needs. Subsequently, the rest you buy. You could also buy from the same COVAX facility through a different mechanism after you have received your 20%. And so it's a way of trying to also protect the poor, or I wouldn't call the poor countries, the other countries that are not so
well disposed. Yes.
So that you don't have to wait for the rich country to be vaccinated before the others can, because otherwise we're going to have a price war, and then the cost of the vaccine is going to we're going to get some countries priced out of it. And so I think it's a global mechanism under WHO and UNICEF and Gavi Alliance to be able to provide some equity and also give everybody some lifeline as far as the vaccine is concerned, whilst we also procure from the open market.
Dr. Patrick Kuma Abuaje, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, you have indeed provided satisfactory answers to my questions. I do hope that our listeners are assured and sufficiently assured that the vaccines are safe. Our health chiefs have looked at it. Our regulatory agencies have satisfied themselves. And to use his word, we have the dossier that satisfies us that the scientific basis of the vaccines are sufficiently rendered safe for our use. I do hope these assures all of us as we celebrated the arrival of the big vaccine in our country in a moment that indeed has affected and impacted all our lives. Thank you very much again for coming.
And thank you very much for the opportunity to meet and speak to Ghanaians.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope this exam also give me some law degree, but unfortunately it doesn't. Thank you very much.
We'll look at that. Thank you very much, Director General of Ghana Health Service again. This has been Town Hall Talk. The program has been sponsored by the Magdan Shipping Company Limited, your total logistics partner. I wish you the best of the weekend. Good night.
Yamo yamuraye, ebe ya.